What did the innocent lens say to the policeman? I've been framed, officer. What did one eye say to the other eye? Between you and me, something smells. Why did the cell phone wear glasses? It lost its contacts. Hey, I tell silly jokes because talking about eyesight and vision isn't all that interesting unless you don't see clearly and start to lose your vision. You know something about that. When I was in the third grade, I sat in the back of the classroom. I couldn't see the chalkboard, so I sat and I played. Hey, that's why people sat in the back of the classroom anyway, right? Had a great time. And then I was standing next to my parents during a parent-teacher conference, and I overheard the teacher saying that I had a behavior problem and my grades weren't all that good, and I was probably gonna have to repeat the third grade unless something was done. And she recommended an eye examination. My mom took me to the doctors and I picked out the cutest little pink cat eye frames. And when I got my prescription, whoa, I could see the leaves on trees at a distance. Yeah, great experience. And I went back to school and I got my seat changed to the front of the classroom. I could see the chalkboard so clearly. And I actually got interested in learning. And I was so happy. I wanted to belt out in song. I could see clearer now. The blur is gone. And my grades started to go up. I could see all obstacles in my way. I was actually interested in learning. And I got along better with the other kids. Gone are the dark days that had me blind. And I passed the third grade and I graduated from elementary school. And it was a bright, bright, sunshiny day. And that was because that teacher advocated for me to get help. My parents advocated for me by taking me to the doctors and getting a pair of glasses. And actually, it never got better. It never really got better. In high school, I think the only reason why I got a D instead of an F in English as a senior was because a teacher wanted to make sure I passed high school. Not an easy road for me, not at all. And when I went to college, the second quarter of English, I went in for help because I was having problems understanding the assignment and getting it done. And the teacher said to me, I have no idea how you were able to get along as far as you have. And do us both a favor. Take this class, credit, no credit, and never show up again. So, like a good girl, I complied. So you might wonder, well, wait a second. How did you get to where you are now? I wonder that myself sometimes. So here I am, still in college. I knew I liked the sciences, and I was an environmental health major, and I took physics because it was a required class. And I aced optics. Who aces optics? Like, really, craziness. So I went to my dad and I said, Dad, and I could see him so clearly just in the kitchen making his signature omelet. And I said, Dad, I aced optics and I don't ever remember studying. And then he had that grin on his face. And he said, well, what does that tell you? He goes, find a job and a career where you feel like you never have to work a day in your life. So I got a job working for an optometrist and I started reading the doctor's books. I was there as a secretary while his wife was on maternity leave. Just great timing. And I loved it. And then a sales rep came in and introduced me to a new appliance and said, hey, why don't you become an optician? feel like it so much. There happens to be a trade school in downtown Los Angeles. I went to that school and I'm college. Only a person, a young person, I think now, would want to do something as crazy as I did. I was going to college in the morning, work during the day, and then went to optical school at night. But I loved it. And it came so easily to me. Like, okay, I found my thing. I graduated top of the class and then went through the process of collecting as many certifications as I could to becoming a spectacle lens expert, a contact lens expert. I now consider myself a low vision specialist. I've written a number one best-selling book, Your Amazing Itty Bitty Vision and Visionary Insight book. And now I am here as your advocate. I am able to answer the questions that maybe don't get addressed when you go see a doctor. You go to see a doctor, and sometimes you're just a number 22, 44, 87, hike to the next room. Yes, we are trained as back office. Oh, I also have my certification in back office to do all the preliminary tests to get ready for the doctor as the doctor goes from room to room to room to room, doesn't even know our name except for to look on the file or in the computer to verify who we are. Anyway, that is where I began with my 4-decade career as an optician. And I call myself now an eyesight visionary expert. And you'll see why by the end of the talk. So, what I've done is I have put my talk into 5 categories. And I think that they're the most relevant to you right now. And we'll see if you feel that way by the end, that you might be able to identify with one aspect of what I'm talking about. If you've got great vision, there's something for you. If you're at a season in your life where you're experiencing blurry vision, maybe at close up, maybe at nighttime, there's something for you. If you have somebody in your family that's experiencing vision seeing in general because of an eye disease or their age, I've got something for you. So let's start with the first aspect of the 5, and that's going to be computers. We're spending so much time in front of these digital devices, whether it be computers, our cell phones, television, laptops, you name it, iPads, they're emitting Blu-ray lights. What is Blu-ray lights? We're hearing about it. Well, I have a picture of the rainbow here. In the rainbow, we have a lot of different colors, and they reflect how light comes through. The red, orange, yellow are those long rays compared to the blue, violet, indigo that are at the bottom that are the short rays. And then we have the ultraviolet. We want to protect our eyes and our vision and our eyesight. So did you hear that difference? Let me repeat that. We want to protect our eyes and our eyesight to allow us the clearest vision possible. Now, that may sound like a mouthful, and I will untangle that. The eye, the eyeball, is like the camera, and it takes a picture. Think of the old Polaroid cameras. That camera took a picture. Then there was a process by which the paper was pulled out, you put on the developer, and then voila, the picture came into being. Well, how do we figure out who it is? Have you seen any of those old pictures that turn kind of like brownish? They were black and white, now they're kind of like brown and white. And you have no idea who's in the picture. Well, that's because the brain doesn't know that information. Guess what? It's the brain that sees. What a concept. So, when we're on our computers all day long, our eyes are taking in that information. And it's the brain that's processing that information. So when I talk about vision, I'm going to be talking about that processed information. And when I talk about eyesight, I will be talking about the camera part of our eye, our eyeball, so that you understand the distinction. Why am I saying this? Because I'm often in a room of people with so many different types of focuses, specialties. When I say vision, they're thinking of marketing, a business plan, a business vision, a lot of other things, when I indeed may be talking about the eyeball, the actual mechanism. So I'm going to do my very, 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 very best to make sure that I am clear in what I'm talking about so that you get the most out of my talk. So we were talking about the number one thing, the computer. We spend so much time in front of the computer. It's emitting rays. We need to protect our eyes. How many of you have experienced either eye fatigue, eye strain, blurry vision, red eye, dry eye, headaches, or something that makes you just want to scream because at the end of the day, your head feels like it's going to explode? Those symptoms are often under the umbrella of computer vision syndrome. We're seeing a lot of diagnosis of that. Doctors often prescribe eye drops. Great. Those work too. I'm going to give you a couple good tips. Number one, the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, look up from your computer, look out at least 20 feet for 20 seconds, then squeeze blink. You think I'm going to leave it there? No way. You join me. Come on, join me right now. Look up from your computer, look out in the distance. By the way, I live in Hawaii, so I'm looking at Diamond Head. Look out in distance. Look straight ahead. Look in the other direction. Say hi to somebody down the hall and come back and squeeze blink. The squeeze blink is just as important as the 20-20-20 rule because our tears have three components. And when we're focusing on a project and we're not blinking, the tears separate. Kind of like that oil and vinegar dressing that you have to shake up in a bottle before you put it on the salad. Squeeze blink allows us to get those tears to come back and helps lubricate the eye, the dry eye syndrome, and it nourishes the eye so those vessels don't get enlarged. So the 20-20-20 rule relaxes those muscles. Give your eyes a break today. 20-20-20 rule. Okay, now one more time. Look up from your computer. Look out at least 20 feet for 20 seconds. Squeeze, blink. Okay. Have you noticed the purple? Yeah, the purple anti-reflective coating. Anti-reflective coating does a couple of things. Number one, it protects our eyes, the lens in our eyes, and the front surface of our eye, our cornea, from those low blue ray lights and the UV, okay? When a person doesn't wear protective lenses of any kind, they'll experience what I was talking about with the computer vision syndrome. We also are protecting the natural eye, our natural eyeball. What happens is, as light comes in, it's going to affect the multiple layers of the eye. I'm going to hold on to that because I'm going to get right back to it. I want to address the lenses first. I know I'm such a tease, right? There's a reason for this. When I was a child, I had single vision lenses. The single vision was for distance, for myopia. I had myopia, myopia. I had near vision loss. People sometimes just need to have glasses for close up because they are hyperopic, hyperopia, hyperopia. And people who just have blurry vision all the time may have a diagnosis of astigmatism, astigmatism. Hey, that's my job to know how to spell these fancy words, right? And that means that you're just blurry all the time. can't tell the difference between a P and an F, a B or an E, uh, an R or a K. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? You have to wear your glasses all the time unless you get contact lenses. I'm not going to talk about contact lenses today. So when we have just one single vision, it just looks like one lens. When a person has a need for two lenses, a bifocal for, let's say, distance and near, there's often a line. I happen to know about that. I wore bifocals when I was in high school because they were doing some testing to help my vision. And it's like I felt like a funky chicken over that line. You know, boy, phew, I feel like I need a chiropractor now. Back in the 60s, women, I mean, women have always been vain. But I remember back in the 60s, all of a sudden, there was a new kind of lens. And I came into this industry in the late 70s, and they came out with this no-line bifocal. Now we have progressive addition lenses. And it's not just because people are vain, it's because we actually, it's more like natural vision. It's your PAL, PAL, progressive addition lenses. It allows us to see distance, intermediate, and near. Fabulous as a multi-purpose pair of glasses. But hey, how many shoes do you have in your closet? You've got your tennis shoes, your dress shoes, your everyday shoes, flip-flops, sandals, whatever you want to call them. You need to consider that for glasses too. So I can always tell when somebody's wearing progressive lenses because they're looking like this to get to the bottom part of the nose. Who wants to see up your person's nose? You want to see the bottom part of the lens so they go like this. Hey, listen, I'd rather you just lift your glasses. It's a lot easier than that. Anyway, just like we need to have multiple pairs of shoes, it's a good thought to get a pair of computer lenses that are just the top part is for the computer distance and the bottom part is for reading. So I share this with you because those were different types of lenses that we needed. That's the second component, different type of lenses that we need and specialty lenses and also safety glasses. If you're in a sport, baseball, tennis, uh, handball, even riding a bike, safety glasses, sunglasses, protect your eyes. So important. So besides protecting our eyes with sunglasses and different types of lenses, we need to protect our eyeball. Now I'm getting back to that thing. So the light comes in and it goes into our eye and we have the natural crystal lens. When we don't have protective anti-reflective coating or protective lenses, the UV gets absorbed into the lens. That's a it forms a cataract. You've heard about cataracts. What are cataracts? Let me give you a visual, not visual, an audio description. Visualize a pan and do this later on and fill it with a little bit of water and then crack open an egg. Turn on the heat. But before you do that, notice that the white part, the clear part, the albumin part, you can't see through it. And then you have the yolk. Just looks like a yolk. You turn on the heat, and all of a sudden there's like gray swips. That's like the beginning of a cataract. And then all of a sudden it gets white clumps, more cataract. And then when the thing is completely white and it's ready to eat, that's a full-blown cataract. And that's what you see on animals when you see the white in the center of their eyes and they are blind. That's a full-blown cataract. How do we experience beginning signs of a cataract? Problems driving at night. Problems driving at night. And you get those horrible flares around the lights. Oh, they're so distracting. It's really challenging. And you go to the doctor and you say, I'm going blind. I can't see. Probably you're not going blind. You could be going blind. But for the sake of this conversation, it could just be a cataract. Also, if you do a comparison test of colors, if colors start to become dim, that's a sign of a possible cataract. The doctor will tell you how that works out. Okay, the doctor says it's not ripe yet. That means that egg that's in that pan just has those little flares and they're not in the line of vision. But when the clumps start to get too clumpy and you say to the doctor, please take it out, doctor may say, let's do it. What happens is they go and do a surgery, you are awake and you don't feel a thing because they numb you up. Okay. They take the inside of that lens out. So think of a Ukrainian Easter egg where the egg outside of the egg is all painted up, but the inside is hollow. So what they do is they go and they take out the part of the inside of the lens that's now cloudy and replace it with a contact lens. It's called an intraocular lens. We can see fabulous. One more tip. After that cataract surgery, sometimes soon afterwards, or maybe with time, the vision gets cloudy again. You may need to have a tune-up. Something is called a YAG laser. Quick procedure in the office. Uh, it's not a full-blown surgery like the cataract surgery. This is just an easy fix. The YAG laser uh, creates an opening on the outside so that the light can go through. It's a wonderful procedure, and then you could see clear again, and then it's a bright day for you once again. Okay, that was the third. Computer, different types of lenses, cataract. Okay, well, now you've had another birthday, another situation happen in your life, and the um the central vision starts to get unclear. That was a situation with my grandmother. She lived with me the last season of her life, and she was complaining she couldn't read anymore. Took her to the doctors and found out that she has freckles on her eyes. Freckles on kids are cute. Age spots, nasty. And that's what happens in the back of the eye. The 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 debris that happens with the rods and cones, the photoreceptors in the back of the eye, they kind of, when they get old and they're not nourished, the top of it sloughs off, forming a debris. It's called a drusen, drusen. And those are like spots in the back of the eye. And if you have enough clumps together, it becomes blurry vision and more blurry vision. And with time, slowly you just don't see clearly. Doctor often prescribes higher magnification. And there's so many other wonderful things that are going on with technology today. I happen to know that there's a special procedure, well, actually a pair of glasses. It looks like the virtual reality glasses, where it actually folds the images on top of each other. It's an amazing thing. If you have this is the low vision beware part of the talk. You go in to have your eyes examined, and often they'll test the pressure in your eyes. There's a reason why they do that. If a person has high blood pressure, they may be more susceptible to this. If a person has a history of glaucoma in their family, it's important. Glaucoma is like a silent killer. We don't know what's happening. And a person starts to lose their peripheral vision and then gets tunnel vision. Not fun. And that is a serious part of low vision. Now, there are proactive ways of taking care of this. Number one is when you have your eyes examined and they check the pressure in your eye. They're going to tell you those numbers, and they're usually going to be under 20, which is a good thing. And then there's a zone that's like, let's watch. And then there's a zone of danger. Working again in ophthalmology most of my career, I would see people coming in and sharing, oh, my eye is red, my eye hurts, that I have a headache, and and I'm taking a pressure that's 50. That's urgent. That's serious. Don't wait until your eyes feel like they're going to pop out of your head. Not fun. A couple things happen with that. There's a different types of surgeries that can be done like right on the spot, and then also long term. Now, a person can go into the category of low vision or vision loss due not only to age or genetics, it can happen from trauma. You could be an athlete, something happens, a fall, a concussion, something happens, and a person can experience double vision. It's a form of vision loss and blurry vision and long-term blurry vision. People ask me, well, how do you know if you're blind? If you're correctable, you're not blind. I feel like I'm blind as a bat. You're not blind as a bat unless the best correction you could see out of your best eye is the big E. Now, when I was growing up, I couldn't see the big E. The person would have to come up to me and hold fingers, and then I would give a distance of when that was clear. Correctable. When I'm no longer correctable, that's when visual impairment happens. And there are tools for that. And the fifth component I'm going to talk about right now is eat for your eye health. When I was talking about macular degeneration, I mentioned the age-related macular degeneration, but there are other types. We call them wet and dry macular degeneration. And the wet type, it requires injections and proactive means of helping the back of the eye. But if we want to eat for our eye health, especially to feed our macula, so that those rods and cones are for color vision, rods are for light vision. We need to eat for our eye health. And just like Popeye the Sailor Man, eat your spinach. There was a reason. Spinach is like the number one food for your eye health. It has lutein and zeaxanthin. Whew, big words. Lutein and zeaxanthin. And what they do is they feed the macula. And dark leafy greens are number one on that list. So sure, carrots are great, beta carotene and all that kind of good stuff, good for your eyes. But I'll tell you what ranks higher, pistachio nuts. Isn't that crazy? We've got our squashes, we've got a bunch of other fabulous foods. Now, also important are omega-3s. Omega-3s, oh, hey, that's like salmon. So it's not just our health that we need to think about when we're eating, but for our eye health, the best meal is just salmon and your spinach. I say make it into an omelet and you're good for morning, afternoon, and evening. Hey, today I've gone through a series of ways that we can protect our eyes and that hopefully you've learned more about your eyes and your vision. With the computer, give your eyes a break today. 20-20-20 rule. Lenses. Get multiple pairs of glasses. Kind of like you have multiple pairs of shoes. I know that sometimes financially it's a factor. Sometimes your insurance will pay for part of it. Sometimes it won't. We do the best we can with what we have. Just consider it. And you can always get single vision lenses, one pair for distance, another pair for reading, another pair for a computer. You don't always have to get the expensive progressive lenses. Letting you know it's an option. Cataracts. You know what the signs are. If you're having problems driving at night, let your doctor know. If all of a sudden things are getting dim, let your doctor know. I talked about low vision, what happens when we have age-related trauma or genetics that cause us to have an eye disease like macular degeneration and glaucoma. I need to add another one in there that's a bridge between that and eat for your eye health, lutein and zeaxanthin, and that's diabetes. For a person who is diabetic, get your eyes tested on a regular basis because you can go blind with diabetic retinopathy. My gift for you today is a computer tip, and that is accessibility features, ways that you can use your computer to actually make it easier to see clearer, find that mouse, and it's going to be my complimentary gift for you. I also have, for the first 10 people, a consultation appointment so that you can share with me your concerns regarding your eyes and your vision. It's been a pleasure being with you today. I want you to know I see you, and I hope that you have a bright, bright, sunshiny day.